Okay, hello everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, let's start the class. This is session 9, as you know all, while we're covering chapter 8, and I have received most of the group's assignments. There are some groups that they didn't send it yet. So as I told you, they will get a 25% deduction on submission part. That is for being basically fair to everybody. Those groups that they have sent, I have sent already the response and reply and acknowledgement on receiving the whole thing. So I just want you to know that I have received your work. I will mark it and you will receive the result right after the classes are done. So today, as you can see, we are going to have another discussion about the macroeconomics, the data of macroeconomics, and let's see how it works. If there is any group that who has not sent the which has not sent the assignment yet, you have to do it as soon as possible for not being entitled of any more deduction. Definitely you will have some penalty over delay in assignment submission, but the sooner the better. When we reach next week, I won't definitely assess any assignment. It's going to be after this week. We already had 1 week already. And so we won't be able to give any assessment. So for your own convenience and a win-win situation, which is you're going to be comfortable getting your result, and also me being able to finalize everything, we try to collaborate. So let's start today's class, the data of macroeconomics. Measuring a nation's income. Today we're going to talk about that, measuring the nation's income and how it works. Macroeconomics is the study of how individual, household, and firms make decisions and how they interact with one another in market. So we are going to basically discuss about this basic fact and how these interactions between households and also firms happening. This is macroeconomy. It's a very, very detailed discussion about what happens inside the things like the supply, basically demand, and all of those, elasticity, utility, all of those things that we have, they're all under macroeconomics. And when we are talking about macroeconomics, we're studying the economy as a whole. So all of the factors that play roles in the economy as a whole will be discussed. So it's goal to explain the economic changes that affect many household, firms, and markets at once. So the relationship between the main factors in the whole economy will be discussed under macroeconomics, and the smaller version, which is the interaction between households and firms and supply and demand and all those related issues, will be microeconomics. So macroeconomics answer questions like the following. First, why is average income high in some countries and low in others? So basically, when you study macroeconomics, you will be understanding why, for example, we call Switzerland a country with a very high national income, and for example, a country like, for example, a country in Africa that doesn't really have that much national income, an average income, and also so how we can have these differences. And as you know, average income is something very, very qualitative and quantitative. When we say average income per capita, we are very, very objective. We are saying that considering the population, exactly how much each person. Because, for example, if you look at just GDP of China, definitely is going to be the highest in the world, simply because it's a bigger country, more people, and definitely we have high GDP. But if you go for GDP per capita, and that is the quality. When we see per person how much the income level or GDP or things like that are. So why do prices rise rapidly in some time period while they are more stable in others? That will be the other, for example, most probably questions and answers that we're going to have for that. Why do productions and employment expand in some years and contract in others? So basically, we talked about all of these inflations, employment rate, interest rate, taxes, export, import, GDP, GNP, GI or gross income, and all of those things. So the economy's income and expenditures. When judging whether the economy is doing well or poorly, it is natural to look at the total income that everyone in the economy is earning. So this is how we call the whole GI or G income level. Okay, so let's go further. Here GDP and its components. Usually in GDP, which is gross domestic product, means what is the gross production done domestically in a country, whether by all the same nationality or other foreign companies living in that or working in that certain economy. So it's not necessary if we are talking about GDP of, for example, US, we are not talking about all of the American companies in US. We're talking about all of different nationalities, but they're acting in USD soil. So their production will be part of the GDP of US. So total in billions of dollars. For example, if consider this GDP of a certain country, 10 point something per person in dollars. Usually divide this based on if you divide your GDP based on each person that you have, so divided by the population, you get the per person or per capita, and percent of total will be now definitely we're talking about the whole GDP 100%. So look at the different things that they're going to be part of GDP. Consumption, C, is part of the GDP, definitely. Then investment is another part of the GDP. Government purchases, another side, and net exports. Net export is export minus import, so we call it net export. So Y or GDP equals to C, consumption, plus I, investment, G, government purchases, and NX or import, export minus import. Okay. So if somebody asks you what is GDP and its component, and this is how GDP and its components are, so let's explain now from now on what do they mean, any of those elements that we just explained. Nominal GDP values the production of goods and services at current prices. So when we're talking about nominal GDP, is the current price and the value of production of goods and services at that specific current price. Real GDP is value of the production of goods and services at the constant prices. For example, long consistent price has been there for a long time, that will be a real GDP. So an accurate view of the economy requires adjusting nominal to real GDP by using the GDP deflator. So we usually, for coming up with a better, accurate approach toward economy, we really need to adjust our nominal GDP to real one. Because real one is the one that you know it's more reliable, it's constant, and so on. It's not based on a current situation. Because basically maybe based on current situations are highly affected by inflation or interest rate or any other exclusion. So you don't really can rely on that. You can rely on something more constant. So real GDP is going to be more actually definitely accurate and more reliable than nominal. So we need to change the nominal to real, and deflators or deflations actually are as you can see here. We usually use this basically deflators to be able to do that. So look at here, prices and quantities, different years, prices, as you can see, year 2001, 2002, 2003, prices of a hot dog, $1, $2, and $2. Quantity, a hot dog is 100, 150, 200. Price of hamburger, you see, it's increasing as well. Quantity of hamburger is 50 also. So as you can see, based on the quantity sold and the prices, you have different information for hot dog and burgers in different years. So year 1, 2001, $1 hot dog, multiple 100 hot dogs plus $2 hot dog in 2002. Sorry, the same year, $2 hamburger, multiple 50 hamburger, because sold. The calculating national GDP for 2001 is 200. Sorry, nominal GDP is 200. For next year, 2002, the same thing. You exactly see the goods and services price and their quantity, and you will end up getting 600. And for 2003, you can see this amount goes to 1,200. So when you want to calculate the real GDP based on base year 2001, is year that you start the whole calculation based on 2001. This is how you do it. $1 was hot dog in 2001, and multiple 100 was sold. So $2 was burger and 50 was sold. Okay, so these two together will give you 200 exactly. Okay, based on year 1. Year 1 again the same $1 because we are calculating real GDP. The year 1 the price was $1. Again the number sold 150, and then $2 burger expect the same year based on the year 2001 price 100 was sold. The same thing goes to 2003. The prices are all based on 2001. So you see, at the end you have different results. In the previous one, you had 200, 600, and 1,400, 200. But the reason why it was increasing, it wasn't just because of the quantity, it was because of the price as well. So, if you look at here, the prices are going to be the same and just quantity increases. So, you are going to have a real GDP here because there is no price involved. So, the GDP deflator is a measure of the price level calculated as the ratio of nominal GDP to real GDP times 100. It tells us the rise in nominal GDP that is attributable to a rise in prices rather than a rise in the quantity produced. As you can see here, we are at our prices and our GDP, which is calculated in the real GDP, is not based on rise in prices. It's because of quantity. And if you look at here, now the GDP deflator is calculated as follows. GDP deflator, nominal GDP, and real GDP, multiple 100. This is the GDP deflator. So if you want to do it for what we've done just now, converting nominal GDP to real GDP, nominal GDP is converted real GDP as below. Real GDP 2000, for example, 1 will be nominal GDP 2001 divided to GDP deflated 2001 multiplied 100. For 2001 the same, but for 2002 it's different. That's why this deflated also is going to be different. Look at here. 2001 we had 200 multiplied 200 divided to 200 to the same thing, get 100. So calculated is GDP deflated is 100 or 1. Okay. But in 2002 that the prices increased, you had 600 while the real GDP was 350, so your deflated, GDP deflated would be 171% or 1.71. And in 2003, again you use the same prices, which was the first year, but the quantity was increased, so we ended up having nominal GDP 1,200, while the real one was 500. So you end up having 240 GDP deflator or 2.4. So look at here, the real GDP in the United States, that is how during the history it was increased. In 1970, it was between, this is $1 billion, US dollar. Means between 3,000 to 4,000 billion US dollar. Okay, and as time passed, this is what happened. You see 2019, 2000, and you see around 2004, you end up having some somehow. This is the real GDP in the United States. So in different years, our GDP changed, and in 2000 it was in maximum. So GDP and economic well-being. GDP is the best single measure of the economic well-being of society. Usually when you want to see whether a country is doing very well economically or not, one of the basic measurements are, as I told you, GDP. But again, GDP by itself, just look at the GDP alone is not enough. If you look at the GDP per capita or per person, that's the right actually thing to judge a country based on, because that, or GDP per person, is going to tell us the exact income and expenditure of the average person in the economy. And if it's that one high, definitely you can say that economy is highly, that certain society or economy is very strong. So GDP and economic well-being. Higher GDP per person indicates a higher standards of living. Higher standard of living means people are in that society enjoying their life more than other countries. So that shows a better economy, a better society, and better society in terms of economical issues, and also a better, higher standard of living. GDP is not a perfect measure of the happiness or quality of life. However, this is actually really important. By the way, that economically you can judge, like for example, if you want to come up with an example, Sweden or Norway or Finland, they are all three different Scandinavian countries. These countries, they have very, very high standard of living, very high GDP per person, but still one of the highest amounts or number of suicides per year is coming from Sweden. So for Japan is another country with very high GDP per person, but still suicide per year every year is a lot. So that shows not necessarily if your GDP per person is high, your happiness and quality of life in that sense is going to be high. The standard of living is higher, but quality of life is not just economic point of view. You have to look at the refugees. You may have a poorer nation, but people are much happier. That's different. GDP and economics well-being. Some things that contribute to well-being are not included in GDP. The value of leisure. Different countries have different approaches toward leisure. How they're spending their time when during holidays or weekends or the time that it's going to be assigned to entertainment, anything like that. How it is, what is the value of that in their life, how much they're spending for that, and things like that. In different countries, you have different approaches. The value of a clean environment, that's another, basically another story. That again cannot be seen in GDP. The value of almost all activity that takes place outside of the market, such as the value of the time parents spend with their children and the value of volunteer work. All of these things are basically cannot be seen in GDP. So you see, GDP is a basically comprehensive measurement, but it still is not complete. It's not 100%. You cannot just look at the GDP and say, yes, there is a nation which is doing very well, 100%. There is no rate of suicide, there is no rate of unhappiness, there is nothing wrong with that nation. No, not necessarily. There are still things that cannot be seen in GDP, and we just so look at here, countries like United States, Japan, Germany, Mexico, Russia, Brazil, China, Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nigeria. Look at the real GDP, the first one, 1999. You see, United States of America has the highest GDP among all of these countries. And we have Germany as the second country. Then we have Japan, we have Japan, and then we have Germany. And then as we come down, the GDP goes lower. The lowest one in this table, which is 853. So let's see, we have two other elements here, or criterion here, that show the well-being of a country. One is life expectancy, and the other one is adult literacy. So let's see, is there any relationship between the highest GDP and highest life expectancy and also adult literacy? You see, as the higher the GDP is, not necessarily the higher the life expectancy. You see, US has a very, very high GDP percent, but life expectancy is 77 years. Why? For Japan, which is the second basically country in terms of GDP per person, but life expectancy is 81. Or look at Germany. Germany is a little bit less than Japan in terms of GDP, but their life expectancy is around 3 years average less than. So as averagely Germans are going to live less than 3 years less than any Japanese. Look at Mexico, 72. Significantly lower GDP in comparison with Germany, but the life expectancy just 6 years less. Or look at Russia. Again, very much less than Germany, or a little bit less than Germany in terms of GDP, but their life expectancy is 6 years less than Mexico. As we go down, Brazil again slightly better than Russia. China better than Russia and Brazil. You see, by quantity wise, China has the highest GDP of the whole world. But per capita, they are in this even table. This is not complete table. And in this table, they are already 7. You can see, not necessarily if you have a higher GDP, because the population of the China is significant. 1.5 billion people are living in that country, so whatever you gain is going to be divided to 1.5 billion. Look at Indonesia, another very, very populated country, around 300 million over people, and their average living life expectancy is 66 years. India, the same, not even lower. And we go to countries like Bangladesh and Nigeria, that they are poorer, definitely even the GDP, you get even lower life expectancy. But look at adult literacy. The highest country in the world has the highest literacy in terms of GDP and life expectancy. GDP is having the highest adult literacy as well. You see, Japan is the highest in terms of life expectancy. It has the highest adult literacy as well. Mexico, again, Germany, 99% are literate, 78 years they are living, or 91 will be Mexico, 99 Russia, Brazil is 85% are literate, China 83, Indonesia 86, India 56, Pakistan 45, Bangladesh 41, and Nigeria 60. As you can see, the lowest literacy rate is Bangladesh, while they are not the lowest in life expectancy. And the lowest in life expectancy is Nigeria, while they are actually indeed the lowest GDP as well. So you can see there are some relationship between real GDP and per person in life expectancy. Not necessarily. You can see the lowest in GDP is the lowest in life expectancy, but not the highest GDP is going to have the highest life expectancy. Literacy rate for top is working perfectly, but it comes to low. Nigeria has the lowest GDP, lowest life expectancy, but not the lowest adult literacy. So it's basically how system works. There are different criteria, but not all of them necessarily going to have absolutely positive relationships. Sometimes direct, sometimes it's indirect. Or if it's indirect, it's not necessarily in a maximum possibility. So let's summarize what we have had so far. Because every transaction has a buyer and a seller, the total expenditure in the economy must equal to the total income in the economy. So as you can see, every transaction has a buyer and seller, means one side is buying, one side is selling. So the total that you're spending is going to be the total that you make. So gross domestic product, or GDP, measures the economy's total expenditure on newly produced goods and services and the total income earned from the production of these goods and services. Did you understand what do we mean by GDP? GDP, how much you're spending for all of these new things to be produced and to be served, like services and goods, or what is the total income that you earn from this production of these goods and services, because they're going to be the same. The GDP is the market value of all final goods and services produced within a country in a given period of time. This is another way of defining GDP, a market value of all final goods and services produced within a country in a given period of time. When we say in a country, means it can be national production, or it can be other countries having some national direct investment in the country and make money. For example, if you're in Malaysia and we have BMW, Volvo, Honda, Toyota, and all these cars producing in this country, and actually adding to the value of the Malaysia, because they are all producing in Malaysian soil. That we call it gross domestic product, simply because it's the value of all final goods and services produced in this country. Another way of defining again GDP is divided among four components of expenditure: how much you're spending for products and services, how much you're consuming products and services, consumption, investment, government purchases, and net export. As I told you before, net export means export minus import. Certain countries have deficit in net export, like their net export is negative, means their import is more than export. Some countries like China, they have significantly surplus net export, means they have significantly positive net export because they are exporting way more than what they're importing. Nominal GDP uses current prices to value the economic production. So the nominal ones means non-current product. You remember the example of burgers? If in 2001 we have the burger $1 and 2003 the $1 became $3. If you calculate the product value of the product on that year based on the price of 2003, that would be definitely a nominal price. Because the current price in 2003 is another $3, so you're selling 10, so 10 multiplied 3 is something. That is a nominal GDP. Well, if you look at the basically constant price, which is what happens from 2003, the same, if you take, for example, the store or beginning in 2001, the prices will be based on 2001. That will be the real GDP. So the GDP deflator is going to help us to calculate this issue from basically change the nominal GDP to basically real GDP. But I already told you how you can calculate GDP deflator by itself. So calculated from the ratio of nominal to real GDP measures the level of prices in the economy. So the level of prices in the economy is measured by GDP deflator, and we showed you how the formula and the whole thing is all about. If you remember in this, okay, no problem, I can show it to you. GDP deflator is a measure of the price level calculated as the ratio of nominal GDP to real GDP terms. It tells us the rise in nominal GDP that is attributed to a rise in prices rather than a rise in the quantity produced. So you look at here, if the first year it said the first year the price in dollar is for hot dog is $1, the second year is $2, the third year is $3, and quantity is also changing. Okay, price for hamburger or so $2, $3, $4. Quantity also changing. If you want to come up with the nominal GDP, this is how you calculate. You will calculate based on the price, current price in each year. Current price in 2001 is 1, current price in 2002 is 2, current price in 2003 is 3. So you calculate the nominal GDP based on the current price. So you will get different amounts based on different years. But if you just imagine in next year, you don't change the price. Means that using the constant price, using the base year 2001 as the right price. By the way, the quantity is changing, but we use the same dollar price as it was 2001 to calculate GDP. This GDP is a real GDP because it will give you prices, the value of the product based on the constant price. So the difference here is GDP deflator is a measure of the price level calculated as the ratio of nominal GDP to the real GDP times 100. Let's see how we do it. It tells us the rise in nominal GDP that is attributable to a rise in price. The reason why nominal GDP is higher than real GDP is because the price is increasing as well, not because the quantity necessarily. Sometimes yes, quantity is increasing, but not necessarily. So when you look at here, this is how we calculate GDP deflator. The GDP deflator is calculated as follows. GDP deflator, nominal GDP that we have, for example, 1,200, 2003, and real GDP, 600, multiple 100. So you can see this is how we calculate real GDP based on different years. here. 2001, the nominal GDP was 200, real GDP also 200. Multiply 100, you will get 100%. So GDP deflated is 100% or 1. 2002, nominal GDP 600, real GDP 350. The GDP deflated will be 1.71 or 171%. 2003, nominal GDP 1,200, real GDP 500, and 2.4 or 240 is GDP deflated. I hope that you understood that. Okay, good. So let's go back to the place that we were. I explained this one. GDP deflated is calculated from the ratio of nominalized to real GDP, measures the level of prices in the economy. So basically, GDP deflated shows you how prices are changing in economy, because GDP, nominal GDP gives you one amount, and real GDP gives you another amount. The difference between these is actually differences in the prices. So GDP deflated, which is going to be calculated based on nominal GDP divided to real GDP multiple 100, basically shows you the differences in the price over the time. So GDP is a good measure of economic well-being, because people prefer higher to lower income. A very basic thing, as I told you before, GDP shows how well-being a certain nation is, and I just explained why, because basically based on that, you will see how much is their ability to buy things and spend on things, because whatever they buy and spend, expenditure that you spend on the product and that they are sold, or goods or services that they produce, is actually the total income that you have. That's why the higher the GDP, the higher the income. It is not a perfect measure of well-being, and I told you why, because there are different criteria that cannot be seen there. Because some things such as leisure time and clean environment aren't measured by GDP, and they're available, or as I told you, you may have a very high GDP, but it's still having high rates of suicide. The reason, for example, a country like Sweden, this country is or Switzerland, or Japan, or other countries, not necessarily if you have high GDP, you may have perfect, happy people. So that is the reason why GDP cannot be completely used to see the well-being of a nation. It can show the higher standard of living for sure, but not 100% well-being of that specific nation. So our discussion today was much shorter than normal, but it was a very nice review of the whole different aspects of basically macroeconomics, a basic explanation of how macroeconomics is going to be measured and calculated, and what are the main criterion or criteria over there, and so on. So please let me know if you have any questions. Dear student, let me know if you have any questions. Is it understandable, all of the part that we were discussing? Mr. Shakurullah, Mr. Sami, Mr. Riaz, Mr. Nisar, Mr. Najibullah, Ms. Nadia, Mr. Muhammad, Asif Alizadeh, Mr. Javid. Mr. Javid said no question. Ms. Nadia said no. How about the rest? Mr. Jahadullah. Okay, if there is no other questions, I want to one more time explain the fact that I have received the assignments of most of the groups and I have replied accordingly that their assignment have been submitted successfully and it will be marked accordingly. So those that they haven't sent yet, please do it by today, and definitely less harm will be included in your work, simply because next week is the final chance, and if you don't make it, that is last chance and you won't get a mark for this certain subject. As you know, the only way of assessing this class is assignment, so we would not consider assignments that you're not on time, because that is the main criteria for you to be assessed based on. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, we can finalize the last this session, and next session, as you know, is the final session of your semester. And after that, this semester will be finished. So thank you so much for attending the class. We had a much faster discussion today, simply because the number of slides and the nature of the topic today wasn't as difficult as most of the subjects and sessions that we had before. So I would like to usually use this opportunity to discuss more with the students over the questions that they have and things like that. No, Mr. Javed Rahim, this is not the last session. Last session will be next week. Last session will be next week, not this week. This week is session 9. Any other questions? Okay, I can see Mr. Shakurullah is going very fast. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I can see there is no more questions. I've been asking this several times, and okay. So Najibullah, can you hear me? The voice is more or less like before. Yeah, we are just calling it a day, and as there is no more question coming up. So, okay, have a great, okay, good. Have a great night. See you all next week. Make sure that your assignment has been submitted. This is the last time. And see you next week all. Thank you. Bye. Yes, yes, yes. I have received that. Thank you so much. So Najibullah, I received your assignment today, so it will be marked accordingly. Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great night. I will respond to your email, Mr. Najibullah. There will be no problem in terms of the assignment. Assignment will go through that, but as I told you, there will be some concern in terms of time of assignment. But still, I look at your quality of your job, and that definitely influences the way that your mark is. Thank you. No, I didn't send anything yet. I will go through that first, and I will send you the stuff. Okay. Thank you.